Well, this has been the long goodbye. Welcome to the Blackburn End Emergency Podcast. As after 91 games, 43 goals and 9 assists, goal machine Sammie Szmodics leaves the club to fulfil his Premier League dream with Ipswich. Once again, Rovers are a selling club after losing Rhodes, Armstrong, Brereton, now Szmodics. And we now face the prospect of having to replace over 30 goals from last season. Do we already have that man? Are we going to have to dip into the market? Or should we use the money to strengthen elsewhere? All these questions will hopefully be answered in the show. But I'm not alone. We have just the guy to help me break it down. Mark, what's your initial reaction?
I'm a lot more gutted than I thought I would be. When I knew this was happening at the end of last season, it was obvious it was going to happen. I am more gutted than I thought I would be.
Well, let's go into the stats that he offered us. So, like I said, 91 goals, 43 goals in 91 appearances, 9 assists. It's been a fantastic return. Most of them came from last season. So let's discuss that. We said on the podcast at the start of last season that we wanted him to offer more goals. Now, you was the main person saying that, and you were right. Is he probably the most improved player we've ever had to come from one season to another to go into last season and just be the absolute key man?
I mean, the only one in recent history that comes to mind was Diaz, because he was, named and shamed as a flop, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden hit the ground running. But yeah, I mean, I remember those conversations about this time last year where we were talking about should he even be in the team. People debate him and Dak and all these kind of things. And I think we were quite consistent in that what we'd said was, well, when Szmodics isn't scoring, he doesn't necessarily offer enough, and there's a debate about whether he should play. When Dak's not scoring, he contributes loads. So, yeah, I think he's massively improved. He's found his niche, and we found a way to play him as well. And I know Greg Broughton talked a lot about that, about when he signed for the club, about what they picked up on where Szmodics needs to play to get the best out of him. He's not, let's not pretend he's it's not Adam Wharton, who's going to go on to bigger and better things. But what it is a player who's very, very good at what he's good at. And there's no reason he can't replicate that.
No, I mean, he goes down as Rovers' 19th all-time goal scorer in front of players like Andy Cole, Damien Duff, Rocco Santa Cruz, Jason Wilcox, Rudy Kestev, and even Mike Null, who, a lot of people still think is a cult hero. And he played 130 games. So a lot of it came into last season. I think at the start of his career, he came out, I think it was, he scored a couple of goals quite early on, and then he dipped down into the reserves, didn't seem to be finding his place. And then suddenly, bang, he found that at the top because we wasn't getting it from other players. And he was just the man. And he's definitely found something in him that's just that instinct to get into the box. So that begs the question, what are Ipswich actually getting?
Well, I think this time last year when the debate was should he be playing, we've evolved, but he's evolved massively. He's turned from he's not an out-and-out number 10, is he, that's going to link the play up. That's not what he's doing. He's not... When he plays in that number 10 role, it's all about his goals. It's all about chance creation. So we were talking about last year, does he actually need to start being able to play out wide on the left? Because he offers very little to the build-up play. But what happened was, Greg Broughton talks about when he brought into the club that Sammie Szmodics, everyone talks about, it's a one-season wonder. And Greg narrowed it down to when he played in the number 10 position for Peterborough, his stats were really good. And that's where he had to play for Rovers. And what Szmodics evolved into at the end of the season was almost a false nine at times. Somebody who just didn't get involved in the build-up play. I mean, the classic one for me is away at Rotherham. He was bordering on a liability when he got involved in the build-up play. When he dropped deep, he would give the ball away. I know that Roy Keane's talked recently, hasn't he, about Haaland, and he got some stick for it, saying he's a world-class player at certain things and League Two at others. Szmodics is very, very good, and he's Premier League class. There's no doubt about that in terms of his movement and his finishing. But around that, there's not a great deal. But they're the two most difficult things that promoted teams find in the Premier League. I think Ipswich If they try and put him on the left-hand side and think, oh, we can't really accommodate him anyway, they're gonna find Sammie Szmodics that we had at the beginning of last season, 2 seasons ago. If they allow him to play in that number 10, not really get involved in the build-up, play on the shoulder at times, and also find space in the box, they will have somebody who will score goals. If the ball falls to him, he will score goals. They've not got Bradley Dack. Bradley Dack was a far better all-round player, but they've got a tremendous finisher and somebody who is not a slouch, is he? We saw the goal away at Leicester. We saw the goal at Leeds. If he gets on that shoulder as well, he's going to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, you said about him having Premier League class, with certain parts of his game. My concern always was, is he ready for Premier League? Because he's now going to be coming up to a level where players are a lot faster, a lot fitter, the space is a lot tighter. But there's also elements of the fact that he might be trusted a little bit more to kind of play his game. My concern with him was, obviously, we know the fees to be around the 10 million mark. There's a lot of fans upset, but he's 28 years old. Yes, he's a leader on and off the pitch, but he hasn't really shown it. I'm not sure he was ready for Premier League football, and I hope he proves me wrong. I think Ipswich should be really happy with this transfer. I'm gutted that he's gone, but I think from an Ipswich fan point of view, they should definitely be happy with the sheer fact of, like you say, the energy, the movement, the instinct. I just hope that for his sake, he gets a goal quite early on, because Ipswich are going to have a tough season. They are going to have a tough season. To get the 2 promotions like they've done and him to now be jumping up a league as well, after having that one good season, and whether he's a one-season wonder, time will tell. I think he's going to have a difficult time, but I think he's ready mentally to have that difficult time. I just hope he gets that gameplay. I hope he gets a goal early for his sake, because I'm guessing we've got a load of add-ons, so we need his success from a Rovers point of view. But bringing on to the Rovers point of view now, what do we need to do to recover from this? Because we assume we're not going to get all of that money to spend, and Rovers are not the kind of team that are going to go and spend that money on just one player. It's going to be spread about. So let's talk about the goals. Let's talk about the position. He's leaving a hole in that number 10, maybe just a bit further up than that number 10. Is Dolan someone that you think can step into that? Is there someone else? Or do you think some of this money needs to be spent in that position?
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the fee, hasn't there? And, he's 29. Is it in a couple of weeks? You could argue that he's in his prime and Ipswich needs somebody ready to go. For me, there's 2 ways of looking at it. You're only worth what somebody's willing to pay. But from our point of view, he's only worth what that money does for us. And that money has to be spent around. We have to become a better team. And we have areas at the minute that we're very, very weak in. We've spent all the Sam Gallagher money. So actually the money that we've recouped in this transfer window alone, we seem to be invested. I think we've got to invest the majority of it. I agree, probably not all in one hit on a replacement, because we're still light. And I think that's what the hold-up's been with these 3 or 4 players Eustace has talked about. We are light, a goalkeeper, a fullback, a midfielder, probably a number 10 now, and a winger. Now, some of that can be loans, but you look before Szmodics, there was Diaz, wasn't there? Before Diaz, there was Armstrong. Before Armstrong, there was Graham. Before Graham, there was Dack. There's Rhodes. And generally, those replacements are already at the club. Tyrese Dolan's got an opportunity to step up. He's yet to show us that he's capable of doing it, but Diaz was yet to show us. I suppose you could argue Szmodics was yet to show us. So he's got a big opportunity to do it, and he's going to start tomorrow in that number 10 role. He's played 1 game there so far and scored 1 goal, but we need a bit more than that, don't we? Unless you're starting to get to the levels that Szmodics got. When you start getting to 30 goals without any penalties, then actually it doesn't really matter. But I think we do need to go out and purchase somebody. Could Gay play that number 9 role with Ohashi as the 10 because of the way Eustace plays them? They're often a 2. That's something I would consider as well. Andy Vyman can play there. But I think what we're looking at is nobody that we've got in the squad now that we go, that's the man. That is the man to take the mantle. There isn't that person. Somebody might be feeling like that. Tyrese Dolan, I think, has got enough confidence to feel like that himself, but he's got a lot to do to get there. I think we probably need to delve in the loan market for this specific role, whether that's out wide or in a 10. I think we need to, for me, I'd like to see us spend the money on a first choice goalkeeper that's ours, on cover for the fullback positions, whatever that looks like, can be a loan. A midfielder, whether that's the 10 or another option in midfield that's going to start, and then a sprinkling of decent loans that we're not spending too much money on, but decent loans. And I'd be okay with that. But I equally, I think we're quite light in the number 9 role. We've got Ohashi, we've got Gay. Is Jack Vale up to it? Is Harry Leonard? And he's not fit, is he? Tyrese Dolan can play there. But again, they're unproven. That's the problem at the moment.
Yeah. The thing is we've said it before. We could strip this team apart and say we need to improve on every single position. We don't know how much money we've got to spend ultimately, because we have Walton money, Ryan money, Kaminsky money, now Szmodics money, to add all the other little things that we've got. Obviously, the Sam Gallagher money you would have thought has gone on to the strikers we've already got. So there seems to be money that we can potentially spend. You can't replace Szmodics' goals. That was a one-off season. This is why he's now a cult hero. You don't get this kind of return from a player in one season without them leaving. And the chances of us replacing that goal, but like we've said in the pod, you want to spread them goals around. So I agree with you. I think the players that are going to be stepping up and our top goal scorers are already at the club. I think Gay and Ohashi have shown glimpses in the first couple of games exactly of what we want. Whether they can keep that up or even kick on, that's to be seen. I'd like to see Dolan getting his contract. I'd like to see Dolan getting the opportunity in that number 10 role now. But the money for me needs to be exactly where you said. Goalkeeper for a start, and then depth. First teamers, if we can spend some serious money and get some good first teamers, fantastic. But we can't replace Szmodics. He won't be replaced. That was a one-off season for Rovers. He could kick on and do it again. I don't think he's not going to get 30 goals in the Premier League, don't get me wrong. But I mean, he could, if he'd stayed with us and obviously got the 30 goals, brilliant. But as far as I'm concerned, you can't replace him. He's irreplaceable for that. Now, that leads on to all the fans hurting right now. Now, you put a tweet out on the at Blackburn End Pod, as Sammie Szmodics looks set to be the latest fans' favourite to leave Ewood Park. Which cut the deepest for you? Now, I'm going to ask you first for yours. Where does this rank for you?
I think something you said about a minute ago, Mike, is the key bit for me. It was a fantastic season. I don't think he's a one-season wonder, because I think that's too harsh. That implies to me that he's never going to score again almost, and he's going to return to 7. I think Sammie Szmodics at championship level this season would have got 15 to 20 league goals. I think that's where the levels he would be at. Mm-hmm. So for me, we're replacing that, not 30 goals. That's the other thing. It's not anywhere near. I mean, I was fortunate enough to see Alan Shearer. And Alan Shearer turning around in the Lancashire Telegraph when there was no X, there was no Facebook. The Telegraph was where you got your Rovers news. And there was an article saying, I am not leaving in the brand new kit. And Alan Shearer left. And that absolutely broke my heart on a number of levels. It broke my heart because David Batty had gone already. Dalglish had gone. And it felt like the final nail in the coffin of, oh my God, what we've just had, those 3 seasons building up to being champions, is crumbling in front of my eyes. So it wasn't just Shearer, it was the whole thing. It's not, I think it felt inevitable, this as well. It's more on a par with, I would say, when Phil Jones left, when even Adam Wharton to an extent, when Damien Duff, when a player got to a level that you just knew they're going. That's where it's at with me. So it felt inevitable, and I'm just glad it's not 10 days' time.
Yeah, for me, it's a Craig Bellamy kind, where we'd got a player in that he came in, he did his job, he left. I mean, how long was Craig Bellamy with us for? Well,
only a year.
Exactly. So I hadn't fallen in love with Szmodics before this last season. In fact, he frustrated me at times. I always thought he was going to be Dak's replacement, but it turned out he was actually the striker incumbent. So he's obviously that one season now. I'm 41 years old. I don't fall in love with players anymore because I'm extremely experienced in losing players. But for me, it was up there with the Bellamy where I just feel frustrated that you finally got someone you can build around and you just know they're not going to stay. So it's the frustration now that you could see, right, we've got someone there that we can now get some money, spend it around him, and let's see what the rest of the team can do, adding to those goals. So I'm frustrated that we had the opportunity to build and now we haven't, because it just proves that we're a selling club even more than normal. So am I hurting? I'm hurting more at the fact that we're a selling club rather than that Szmodics has left, if you know what I mean. So let's break down some of what the fans have said. So James Marsh has said Dak Rhodes Armstrong in recent times, but Sammie's might hurt the most purely because of what he did for us last season. I completely get that. For me, Dak is a completely different level of cult hero. And Rhodes, I was frustrated with similar situation to now where I just don't want us to be that selling club. Thomas Jackson, Jay, Shearer, Janssen, Duff, Morton, Gans, Pedersen, Dak, and now Szmodics all cut deep. Damien Duff, John Lee said Shearer. I think, and after Shearer, nobody else comes close. 100% agree. And there's one that's a bit of an obscure one, but I actually really agree with this. Tim Dio said, bit obscure, and it's more frustration than so, but Conor Mahoney, he finally got his chance and played excellent, and then he went to Bournemouth under 23s. I remember being massively frustrated with Conor Mahoney because I thought that he was going to be the next one to come through. But other names, Henning Berg, Santa Cruz, there's quite a few here. Friedel. I think this one for me, it's now a point where we're constantly rebuilding. Every season is now a rebuild, and it needs to get to a point where we've made a foundation and now we're building. Whereas it seems to be we're constantly ripping everything out and starting again every season. And I was hoping we was at the other side of that. But when you perform like Szmodics did last season, you can't expect him to stay in the Championship and build. So 100% realistic, he was always going to go. Was always ready for him to go. I didn't expect him to ever say that he was going to stay, and he didn't. So it was all done right. The money, I understand the money. What people could moan saying we should have had more, but I understand why we've got the money that we've got. Final thoughts from you, Mark?
I think from a Szmodics perspective, I'm happy for him in the sense of he's gone to a Premier League team. There wasn't as much interest as we probably thought. I'd have been more disappointed if he'd gone to Leeds or somewhere like that where he's still in the Championship. You've got to remember, Sammie Szmodics has played for Colchester. He's played for Peterborough, then Blackburn. He's not going to have made fortunes out of football either. So this is his big move for many, many reasons. It's his shot at Premier League football. I just hope they play him in the right position, and I hope they play him in enough games and give him that chance to work through if he has a bit of a dry patch. Because otherwise, people are going to label him a one-season wonder, and he is more than that. He's a fantastic individual. I think he added things to the club, and the club have made reference to that in their statement that they've put out. But it's been a tough one for me. And I was trying to work out why I found it so tough. And I think my little girl's really, really got into Rovers the last 12 to 18 months. She loved Adam Armstrong and she was gutted about that, but she was still quite young. But actually, we've had memories of things Szmodics has been at the centre of together. So the Leicester away, the video that the montage I put together, you can just see it. Ems Hart sent me the video. Thank you, Ems. And my little girl's right at the middle of it with a Dolan shirt on because she still adores him, and singing Sammie Szmodics on my shoulders at Leicester. So I think that's why it hurts a bit. But at the same time, he was always going to go. And would we have got those moments again this season? I'm not sure. I just hope he goes and kicks on. But for me, whether this is a positive thing for Blackburn or not is what you said. So Coventry City sold Gyökeres and they've got a better as a squad. For us, if we're going to get anywhere, we can't keep ripping it up like you'd said. It's got to be the Adam Wharton money comes in and we move forward with it. The Szmodics money comes in, we move forward with it. There's a court case looming. This is a line in the sand now, this transfer window, and the January one. We have to be better as a team because the last 4 windows, we've got worse. And if you lose Szmodics and you get worse every window, then you've got a massive problem.
Well, we wish Sammie well. He gave everything last year. He's been a great servant, a proper cult hero who will be lost on and off the pitch. We give one last salute and hope he goes on to have a great career. He saved us last season with his goals and it'll be difficult to replace. As for Rovers, we've pulled rabbits out of hats before. Let's hope we do it again. Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And I will be going down to Norwich tomorrow. So anyone who's there, if we want to have a bit of a therapy session, just find me and we'll have a little cry together. We'll be okay.
Exactly. Buy Mark a pint. He's going to need it. But like, subscribe. All the socials are down below. We're trying to put as much out there as we can. Remember that we have moved from Rovers Chat. So like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the podcast.